97 FM, the Bahamas. And on the World Wide Web at www.love97fm.com.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes.
Maritime Matters is brought to you live by Bahamas Maritime Connection.
What is maritime?
Maritime, simply put, relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It
Force.
is very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
And pleasant good evening to you, our valued listening audience. Welcome one, welcome all. Welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. This is Tuesday, the 23rd day of July, 2024. And if it's a Tuesday, it's a Maritime Matters. Our sponsors for tonight's show, as usual, 101 Pharmacy. And also Island Care Pharmacy. For all your medication needs, check out my little cousin, Chantia McBride, and her lovely team at 101 Pharmacy in Nassau, and of course, Island Care Pharmacy in the city of Freeport. Fill your prescription at the store or send your refills via the online site 101pharmacy.com. That's 101 Pharmacy. 101, all lower words, lowercase pharmacy, part of that word, .com. The three locations, East Street South. And when you go in there, please say hi to my girl Joy. That's the pharmacist. She will fix you up. Also on Charles Sanders Highway. And of course, Explorers Way in downtown Freeport. This one is where my big sis, Steph, hangs out. Supposed to be my cousin, but we grew up like brother and sister. So, that's my big sis. She got me by a couple months. I even know if Steph got me by a whole year. Anyway, Steph, you know how we roll. So give her a kiss for me, please. We are secondly sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. At BMC, we provide a full slate of ISPS maritime security services. So if you have a port facility or even a ship that require ISPS specialists, like the ROs, the RSOs, well, that's us. We got you covered, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, Annie Mae. Our number one fan on Maritime Matters. I say good evening to you, Auntie May up there in Freeport. 91 years old, people, and going strong. Let me tell you something. Annie Mae ain't easy. That's my good Annie Mae. It is my pleasure, dear listeners, to introduce you to the man behind the controls. Our wonderful producer for the night, I present to you the insatiable, the man of the hour, the man with all the power. He is fully able. He is quite capable. The one and only Mr. Craig Gibson. There he is. I tell you, that's my boy with a salute, eh? You're listening to Maritime Matters. On this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters is weekly at 17:05. And for those who ain't sure, that's 5:05 p.m. right after the news break. Okay, it's a little late. We're 2 minutes off, eh? We ain't watching nothing tonight. Right here on Love 97 FM. The purpose of our show is to highlight persons that made significant contributions to the maritime industry in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. We also covered current maritime issues from the domestic and the international maritime fields. The lines are now open, so you can call in, dear listener. Please feel free to contact us on 326-8255. Again, excuse me, you want to reach us during this show because we are live, coming at you live, like my boy Marlon will say, you're live. You can reach us, 326-8255. We will be happy to receive your call. Our topics from tonight continues with those 4 missing seafarers, resulting from a big freighter, well, maybe not a freighter, what it was, a bulk carrier, maybe that's a big batch, that reportedly sank last week sometime while they were transiting from Ocean Key en route to South Eleuthera. In this vein, we shall address the following. The fact that they called off the search for the 4 persons unaccounted for in the wake of the vessel capsize off Morgan's Bluff. We seeing no information in the daily surrounding the casualty investigation for this one, not yet. We haven't heard anything from the BMA. Well, I haven't. I don't know if you know anything that the BMA said with regards to casualty investigation on these 4 lives. Please feel free to hit us up. I will be happy to hear about it. And we're going to talk about that same section 186 of the Merchant Shipping Act, where ships are required, if they're non-solus, to carry a local safety certificate. We left off on that note last week. We didn't finish it, but boy, we can finish it tonight, eh? Vessels dry docking, crewing, surveys being carried out, audits being carried out, inspections being carried out. All those things will be covered with that local safety certificate. Do you imagine how many people will be employed if all of these non-solus vessels, and we got a couple thousand of them, I can tell you, I used to work in the port department, thousands of them that would need to be surveyed on an annual basis prior to the port inspection. And the port inspection has its place. The A license and B license have their places. But the STCW code also has its place with vessels going into unprotected waters. And we want to talk about that tonight too. Secondly, we still have some opposition to the Nassau Container Port Water Park. And the dailies riddle it. Minister Glennis Hannah Martin says enough is enough. How much they want? In other words, don't that Nassau cruise port already have enough going on in there for the tourists as compared to outside of the port, the Bay Street area, the downtown area, and all the rest of that good stuff? But you know, I don't know what is enough when it comes to a destination and all the amenities and attractions that are featured in that destination for the #1 cruise port stop in the entire world. Listen to me good. There's no port facility that receive cruise ship stops more than Nassau Cruise Port. Nowhere in the world. We are #1 when you add them all up at the end of the year, eh? We #1 when you take away from the home porting. Now, home porting is not a stop or visit on the itinerary. It is just where they join the ship and where they get off the ship. Yeah, there could be a stop anywhere. But outside of those big 3, and we know who the big 3 are: Miami, Port Everglades, and Port Canaveral. They're the big 3 for home porting cruise ships in the world. And all 3 of them are basically on the outskirts of the Bahamas. And the ships that they facilitate, which are most of the cruise ships in the world, will need a stop once they leave port with those guests. And it's very, very difficult for them to pass the Bahamas. And we want to talk too about the 2 stops per week that, what's the name of the new RCCL cruise ship? Utopia of the Seas. Utopia of the Seas will be making 2 stops to Nassau every single week. Well, of course, they will also be making 2 stops to their private island, which is a perfect day at Coco Key. But we don't mind that. The reality is they're going to be making, and this ain't the first time something has happened, ladies and gentlemen. When I worked at the port, we had, I think, one of the Disney ships that came here twice weekly. Or we had a couple of Disney ships coming here. But we've had, RCCL had a ship, I think it was, what was the name of that one, boy? Can't remember. But they used to come here twice a week because they did what you call short cruises. They did 3-day and 4-day cruises on a weekly basis. And like I said, maybe it was 2 shows ago or last week's show, you cannot do short week cruises unless you have destinations that are near enough to your home body. And outside of Nassau, I don't know if they can have destinations near enough outside of all those private islands to those big 3, Miami, Port Everglades, and Port Canaveral. They are the big 3. And you, coming out of them, you can't duck the Bahamas people. Yes, all of these cruise ships got some private port in the Bahamas. We know. And we know where those private ports are, eh? They're all over the place. As a matter of fact, while the Bahamas government have only 1 cruise port that is basically owned by the Bahamas government. Because we ain't counting Freeport, eh? Because Freeport really owned by the Bahamas. That's really owned by the Port Authority of Freeport, of Grand Bahama, whatever the case may be. But we're talking about what the Bahamas government owns. And right now, we don't even operate the port of Nassau, the new Nassau container port. That's operated by a private entity, although the government still have ownership in it, eh? But Nassau is the hottest ticket in the world. And it's primarily because of jurisdiction, but also because Nassau got what it takes. We got nice beaches. We got good weather. Hey, it's be hot, but that's what the tourists want. They don't want it raining. Yeah, we have our share of rain. No, well, we don't have rain in the Bahamas. My good friend, who I did some of my pilot training under, Pilot Chris Brown, always used to say to the captains on those cruise ships, oh, this is not rain. We don't have rain in the Bahamas. This is liquid sunshine. And I always laugh at Brother Chris when he told them, this is liquid sunshine. And he meant it. We don't worry about no rain. And in the military, you know, we have the saying, the rain don't stop, no show. It's only rain. So when it rains, we don't pay any attention to it. We just allow ourselves to get soaked and we don't care. Because we military people. So that rain sometimes is a blessing. You know something? I was on the roof. I still think I kind of young sometimes. And I go on with the roof. Me and Jensen. Jensen is my contractor who, you know all these things. And I didn't realize how hot the roof just be these days. It got so hot on that little roof that if you rest your hand on a spot, it get burned. When you pick up the shingle, they already kind of stick together. You can take them apart. And I didn't realize how hot it was. But this place is extremely hot. And not only here, this is a worldwide epidemic with this heat. This global warming that we keep talking about. Anyway, like my good friend Nahaja to say, I digress. Or we digress, right? Let's get back to this water park that Minister Hannah Martin is saying that they have too much. I don't I don't share that view. My view is you cannot have too much attractions at a destination. My view is we need to add some things in addition to that water park. We need the zip line. We need the harbor walk path from Prince George Wharf to Porter's Key, and then from Prince George Wharf to Arawak Key, where people can just walk along the waterfront. Why not? They do it everywhere else in the world that they're trying to do things right. We shouldn't have to be left behind. So let's get our zip line in place. Let's get our Nassau fly in place. The big Ferris wheel thing that goes way up in there, and you can see all over PI, you can see all over Nassau Harbor, all over downtown Nassau. I think you could even see over the hill all the way back to South Beach. That's only 7 miles away. So let's get that in place. And we can put that near Porter's Key, or we can put that near Arawak Key. It doesn't matter. We could have two. But you can't have too much attractions in a destination. Not only that, my view is that every single one of those cruise ships has numerous pools. And anybody who goes on a cruise will know that there are times when those pools are full. You only have space for one more person to get in those pools. They love the pools. But those pools are relatively small because the cruise ship could only designate so much space to pools, eh? So if you're going to put a 50-meter pool in that port, and, well, I don't know if this is proposed for a whole 50-meter pool. That's an Olympic-sized pool, eh? 50 meters. That's the big one. Big dog. In that port, along with a nice bar, covered. So you can come out of the pool to the bar. Or you can even put little stool seats in the pool like they do at Sandals and them, where you could sit in the water and have your beverage, your little collect or whatever you want, drink. Kool-Aid, some people lemonade, I guess, switcher. And in addition to that, you could be in and out of that pool. Do you know how many people do not leave that cruise ship when it docks at Nassau because they've been here before? Or really and truly, they'd have no desire to go walking about in a place. You got to remember, first of all now, Nassau is far more expensive than Florida. Now, all the home ports in Florida. And that do mean people don't want authentic things out of Nassau. That do mean, well, they like the straw market. That do mean they don't want to come ashore and see some of the sights, do tours. We know that, but those people who want to do that going to do that anyhow. You notice you got 15 to 20,000 people in here almost daily. They can buckle up to each other trying to do tours. Sometimes we go there, no taxis available. All out on tours. So the ones that remain on the ship doesn't even come off because they have no desire to go downtown or to do any more tours or to go to the straw market because they don't have them things in their house. They want them more. But if they have a 50-meter pool that can entice them to come off the ship because they ain't got nothing like that on no ship, and just enjoy and drink because that is in the port, why shouldn't we offer that to them? And in addition, if they were to have a harbor walk path along our harbor, well, along the way, eventually they could have high rises, they could have restaurants, ice cream parlors, whatever. Along the way to Porter's Key, along the way to Arawak Key. Well, less so Arawak Key because Porter's Key have that long stretch ready to be developed. We know that east of East Street ain't nothing going on, right? So let's fill that in with a walk path, very nice walk path where people could even go jogging along the waterfront. Why you can't go walking or jogging along the waterfront if you choose? You go down in London and go on the Thames River and see what you could walk for 10 up to 10 miles right along the Thames River, and that ain't got no kind of beauty to compare to what you get in the Harbor Walk of Nassau. So we need to pull ourselves out of that box we in, open our minds, see what's going on everywhere else in the world, and we need to make Nassau Harbor what it's supposed to be. We have a gem. But not only do we have a gem, we have an influx of tourists that really comes here because, first of all, where we're located. Second of all, because we have nice beaches and all the rest of that. But a lot of them would like to just come off the ship and take a walk to Port of Ski and get some crack conch or some conch salad. Even if they only get some ice cream along the way. But because they have that nice harbor walk, they just want to come off the ship and stretch their legs. And along the way, they're going to see stores and restaurants and all of that, if we were to eventually get where we need to go with this. Or they may want to take the zip line there. Anyway, again, I think I digress. I digress much, because this is where we need to go, people. I ain't finished coming back to this. Now, we got the Houthis. Who are the Houthis? The Houthis are the third leg of the Big H triangle, eh? The Big H would be Hezbollah. They're the ones that basically run the show in the Gaza Strip and in those areas where the Philippines are, where the Israelis are now occupying and starting to occupy more and have been occupying over the past decades, peace, and really squeezing them out, right? So they wanted to have a little, well, Hezbollah didn't want to kick back. Hamas wanted to kick back. They figure we're being taken advantage of, we need to do something. And they're going to do something silly. They're going to attack Israel and put a bomb there and kill a couple Israelis and took some prisoners hostage and all the rest of that. So, of course, like anybody else, Israel decided they could strike back. And they strike back in a massive way where the entire world is begging them to stop. But you know, Israel ain't look like they're on no path to try and stop. They eased up a bit. And then recently they told the citizens, residents, that look, we need you all to go on this area of the bank. And you'll be safe. You ain't got to worry about us bombing. And then they go on in that area. And then, man, they put one big bomb and kill up a whole heap of people again, saying, oh, well, you know, we had information that one of the leaders of the Hamas was there. And we had to say that they never come up and say they killed the man. But so many women, children, elderly were killed in that blast and continue to be killed. So Hamas basically started that up and Israeli responded and they continued the attack based on the attack that Hamas made, the initial originating attack. And then Hezbollah is saying, look, man, we had nothing to do with what Hamas did. But as far as the Israelis are concerned, Hamas have insurgents through and through that area and this area and that area, and they come and they bomb hospital, they bomb this place, they bomb that place, because once they think Hamas have something to do with it, they bomb it and they don't worry about it. Over 90,000 people already got killed from bombs that Israel is sending in Gaza. Over 90,000. And these are not, you know, Hamas is a small group. I don't even think they have 90,000 people in the entire Hamas. And ain't nobody said they're getting none of them. But they're just bombing like crazy anyway. And the world is begging them to stop. So that's Hamas. And then we got Hezbollah. Hezbollah was a terrorist group. They eventually took over as the government of Gaza, the Palestinians. And they kind of shape up. And they was getting along pretty well with Israel as far as, we need this tit for tat thing to be going on. We could behave ourselves in yada yada. But of course, Hamas wasn't on that run. Because they always looking for me to get back. Because you can imagine half of your family get killed from Israeli bombs and you live there right next door. And now they coming and they squeezing you out piece. No, you have little issues, right? But you can't beat them. So what happened in recent times is the Houthis. Now who are the Houthis? The Houthis are a rebel bunch 1,000 miles south of Israel. A place called Yemen, which borders the Red Sea and the area called Gulf of Aden, Excuse me. And by bordering that area, they have taken charge of shipping. And the ships that used to be able to pass through that area to get from the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea by way of the Suez Canal. Most of them has turned away. About 90% of them has decided they're not coming through there because it's too dangerous. I mean, the Houthis have been sinking big ships. The Houthis have been sending drones and missiles, ballistic missiles and whatnot at real frigates and destroyers and aircraft carrier from the U.S. and other naval forces. These fellas don't care. And with all the power and the might of the navy of those armed forces, they tried and failed to stop the Houthis from setting up and launching missiles and sending out drones and sending out drones with aircraft, drones with what they call little ships or little boats that they make, which is really just a big bomb. But they have GPS to move into vessels and then explode and all the rest of that. So they've been doing a lot of damage, And they were a nuisance, really. They're a nuisance to shipping, I can tell you. And they're a nuisance, of course, to those armed forces in that region. And they are now a nuisance. Well, they've been, but they're now a bigger nuisance to the Israelis. Because what they did, although they are 1,000 miles away, which is, 1,000 miles is like, I guess you could call 1,000 miles from here to almost to Jacksonville, That's a long way. Now they claim that they have a drone that they launched from Yemen and it made it all the way to Tel Aviv, Israel. And they hit a target. And Israel said, oh, so that's what you all do. So you know what the Israelis did? The Israelis sent out their Air Force. And they did some bombing in Yemen. Now we may ask, is that fair? Yemen is not the Houthis. The Houthis are insurgents in various places in Yemen. Yemen is a totally different country. The Yemenis government don't have nothing, no problem with Israel as far as they're concerned. But the infrastructure was attacked because as far as Israel is concerned, them Houthis do it and they living in there. You all better get a grip on them, otherwise you all will be suffering. Israel already show you they don't care, right? Excuse me. So we are now dealing with a situation where the 3H, Hamas, well, of course, they didn't get hit back too many times. Hezbollah had suffered as a result of what Hamas did. And now the Houthis are getting backfire from Israel by way of Israel's Air Force. And Israel have the strongest Air Force in that region, I mean, I think we all know that. So, what else the Houthis did? The Houthis actually caused the Suez Canal, which is Egypt now, right? Remember, Egypt is just below Israel, and Egypt is the one that has the Suez Canal where people pay big bucks to get their ship from the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean and vice versa. But because the Houthis was hitting out at ships are now afraid to even try to... So over the past year, 2023, the Suez Canal revenue dropped by $2 billion with a B. So the pilots who used to be taking these ships, the line handlers who used to be handling these ships, the tugboats that used to be assisting, they are not doing nothing. They're making no money. They're sitting there. It'll be very, very, very interesting to know. They can't even pay their mortgage. Some of them probably mortgage their tugs and whatnot. But that's what people do in life. You mortgage things that you want to get into business with. And at the end of the day, if you have a $2 billion drop in revenue, that is going to have a significant impact in the entire economy of Egypt. So the Egyptians are suffering as a result of the Houthis doing what they're doing. But Israel is right next. All right, across the street, across the way from Yemen, eh? And Israel, who is further away from Egypt, is making this attack. Although Egypt lost all their revenue, they don't even attack. Well, I think they understand that the Houthis are on a mission for whatever purpose and all the rest of that. So the whole region is in turmoil. And now that Israel has struck back at the Houthis and gone into Yemen and do something, other countries in that region are now looking to say, hold on now. We know you all in mashup. The Gaza Strip and all that. But we really don't like the idea of you all coming out and attacking countries 1,000 miles away. Although you may have a group that saying they attack you or even attacked you that are hiding out in those countries, why would the country itself suffer your attack? Anyway, that is up for discussion. We're going to talk tonight too, although time going fast, about the carriers. Aircraft carrier USS Dwight Eisenhower, which was replaced in the Red Sea by another aircraft carrier, Theodore Roosevelt. And this just happened last week, eh? I don't even know if the Roosevelt reached on site yet, but we know that the Eisenhower was back in the States. So let's talk about why those aircraft carriers were there, why they're there, what's going on, and all that we want to discuss. So we're going to continue to move forward. And again, the phone numbers to call, 326-8255, if you want in on this discussion tonight. So the information that we have is that the 4 persons that are now found dead that were on that vessel that capsized off Morgan's Bluff, I think it was a week from Friday past, we have no real information surrounding any casualty investigation by the Bahamas Maritime Authority, because only the BMA can do casualty investigations because they are the administration or the flag administration, the maritime administration for our country, the Bahamas. And they have an obligation by way of the Merchant Shipping Act to carry out casualty investigations for loss of life in particular that happens in the Bahamas. So you can't tell me 4 people lost their lives. They may not be Bahamians, but if they lose their lives based on a boating casualty in the Bahamas, there should be investigation and there should be reports and there should be recommendations and all the rest of that stuff. And what is that going to reveal? I don't know, but I know what it should reveal. It should reveal that we have a lot of vessels in this country that we have no way of knowing the status. And when I say status, I'm talking about the safety measures of these vessels. And talking about safety, we talking about, is the hull sound enough to be going out there and then bouncing choppy waters? Because we know that the hull, the ship itself, supposed to be dry dock. I don't care what kind of vessel it is. At least once every 5 years. But now, especially these commercial vessels, I mean, I'm not talking about the little yachts with people own and all that. They want to take the chances with their life down on them, right? But these commercial vessels that are going out there to make money and carry goods and are liable for losing people's lives who waking on board the ships. First of all, life comes first. Secondly, for losing people cargo that are being transported on the ships. And thirdly, for the ship itself being a menace because it sank in our waters. You know, all these ships carry fuel. Mostly diesel for ships that size. You don't know what kind of cargo they carry. But they have bunkers in the ship that are going to get in the ocean or in our waters. They have other poisonous substances that can get in our waters. And we don't want that to be happening. We don't want ships to be sinking because we have no control over the safety measures on board those ships. We have no system to capture the fact that the ship, every vessel you see out there was dry docked at least once every 5 years because they had to be surveyed. And they have to be audited. We don't want the ships to be out there. And we don't know whether the crew on board are certified based on the STCW code for ships going in open seas. Because if they're not certified, they can do things that they don't even really know that is below the standards required if they were certified. And that's from a navigational perspective. That's from a maintenance perspective. So that's from a safety firefighting perspective. Shoring up holes if you hit something, if you get in a collision. You practice these things based on these surveys, based on audits, based on what needs to be done to ensure. It's like our cars. You go on the road, let's say they never used to inspect cars. So your tire could have been bald. Your lights probably ain't working. And then these are things that could cause problems for other cars on the street. But the thing about cars now, the car break down or stop, fella pull to the side, he can't move the car, he call a wrecker. You can't do that with ships on the high seas. Because if you get a ship on the ocean and that sink, especially a big ship like a big barge like that one in that area where that was in, nobody can come and help you. And if you're in the ocean, you're going down. You can't pull on the side of the road. So if it's only for these simple reasons, we can get the government entity responsible for the safe operations of these vessels to have this local safety certificate issued to them, which will verify that yes, every vessel out there that have this local safety certificate was dry docked within a 5-year period. Every vessel out there that has this local safety certificate, they are properly crewed by people who are certified to operate those vessels. Every vessel that have this certificate has proper radio equipment with proper battery banks because they had the radio surveyed before that certificate could have been reissued or endorsed every year. Same thing with the safety equipment on board, because now we got to think too. If this barge sank and 4 men lost their lives because they could not get in a lifeboat or a life raft, that the reason why ships are required to carry life rafts and lifeboats. It's so that if the boat is going to sink in the ocean, the crew still have an opportunity to not go down. Because you got to remember, if the boat didn't sink, let's say the boat it sank but it didn't go down, like a piece of the boat is still in the water, the crew could hold on to that piece. But now when that piece go down, the crew's basically there with nothing to hold on to, nothing but ocean around it. I've been to sea many times, and there are many times you on the sea, you could see nothing but ocean all around for miles. And when this one was coming, they basically, once they hit that water, they can't see nothing else but ocean. But if they had a wakeable lifeboat, or even a life raft, because let me tell you what a life raft does. This is a maritime show, I could talk about this one. The life raft, ships are required, solar ships, and I dare say ships under the local safety certificate scheme, if they ever implement it, are required to have self-releasing life rafts. In other words, these life rafts are on the ship, and if the ship goes down so fast that the crew didn't have a chance to deploy them properly, they will automatically deploy on their own once that ship gets a certain amount of feet under. Let me tell you how it works, because I used to have to inspect them. They have the life raft, have a painter that is secured to the ship. It's tied to the ship. And they have a strap coming over the life raft that clamps the life raft and keeps it very solidly onto the ship so it don't be loose and moving around and rattling and could cause trouble for the ship itself, right? And that strap, that canvas strap, is kept together by something called a hydrostatic release gear. What the hydrostatic release does is it has a mechanism inside it that is operated by the pressure in the water. So what happens is when that ship starts to go down, and that reach about some 30 meters, which is about 90 to 100 feet down. Now the pressure, I don't know how many of you all know, but pressure underwater. When you dive in and you pass from 20, 30 feet, that pressure will have your ears like it won't burst. And the further down you go, the more pressure on your ears, because there's so much pressure on. You remember the vessel that went, the small submersible that went down to look at the Titanic? It got, because once a little pinhole gets in that will implode because of the pressure around it. So a ship going down would have a hydrostatic release, which responds to pressure at about 100 feet down. And it has a scissors-like mechanism that cuts the rope in half. And when they cut the rope that runs through the hydrostatic release, the canvas just opens up. And the raft starts to float, because now the raft is not open up, but it's still in a shell with a certain degree of buoyancy. And so that buoyancy causes that raft to start to raise while the ship is going down. And that painter pays out. And that painter is about 60 to 80 feet long. And at the end of that painter or the rope where it's tied onto the ship has a little red area that we know as the weak link. And that weak link will hold until when the raft reaches the limit of that painter, it actually pulls a mechanism in the life raft to cause it to inflate. Because the ship is still going down and the raft is down, so it inflates. And once that raft inflates while the ship is 100 feet underwater, 200 feet now, 300 feet, whatever the case may be, the pressure is too great for the weak link section of that painter to hold on to the ship. So the weak link snaps and the inflated raft just rises to the top on its own. Nobody had to touch it. And I happen to know this because I had to inspect to make sure these things are arranged properly so that if the ship sinks without the crew being able to get to the raft, all the rafts that are self-release will all float to the surface. So you may have 10, 12 rafts just floating to the surface of the ocean where the ship sinks and the crew didn't have a chance to deploy them. And if we had the local safety certificate in place, this vessel going down, once the crew was able to tread water at the top, will then have life raft popping up, at least 2 or 3 of them, and they could all swim and get into a life raft. Not to mention the fact that if they know the boat was sinking, they could have launched what they required to have as a lifeboat. Heavy hull, a heavy lifeboat that they could go into and release. And the ship going down with the lifeboat was always, they didn't have to get wet. They didn't have to swim to the life raft. They never had to get wet. And this is why it's so important for the BMA to implement what is required under the Merchant Shipping Act, Section 186. That local safety certificate scheme. See, it's just not just a piece of paper. It's a whole system that got to go into that piece of paper. And that system, as we know it, incorporates the issuance after the surveys were done to verify that the ship was dried docked on a timely basis, the crew are certified, the firefighting equipment are arranged properly, the life rafts and life vests are in place the way they should be, and a whole heap of other things like in the engine room. You go down there and make sure you could fight a fire properly. They have the CO2 or whatever drench system they need in the engine room. There's not a bunch of grease all over the place like how some of our boats just be. In the galley, you got to make sure that they have enough water for the crew to be drinking. They don't have no roach-infested cupboards and that type of thing. So all these things are taken into consideration when surveys are being done. And I put it to you, my dear listener, and to the Bahamas Maritime Authority with the responsibility to see that things like this are being done, that these things are not happening. To about 80% of the vessels out there, it's up to the owner to decide he wants to spend money to do these things. And it should never be. So, you see why I got to get a little hot under the collar when I get news like this, that we have a vessel where 4 people lost their lives that could have been readily avoided if that vessel was required to carry that local safety certificate, which would signify and indicate that they had proper safety equipment on board, that the vessel had a chance because it's dry docking and we know that 5 years don't pass without it actually getting a survey to say the dry dock was done properly, and all the rest of that. That's just the beginning, and it's a lot more. Anyway, we got a call on the line. Producers, got a call on the line? Call you on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Glenn Bean. How you doing?
Top shape, my friend, and getting better all the time. How are you?
I'm doing good. Let me ask you something, Glenn.
Yeah, Dougie.
Would you say a quarter of our boats that be leaving Fortescue, the ramp, and all those areas are properly certified with life rafts, life jackets, and everything? Would you say that?
I don't think none of them are properly equipped because, again, there is no certification scheme to ensure that they are. Now, the port department, they does what you call an annual inspection. And I used to be in charge of that inspection team. So I can tell you, that's no survey. They just inspect the navigation lights. If that vessel was not dry docked in the past 5 years, they have no regulations in their port regulations to say that these vessels are required to be dry docked every 5. So this local safety certificate is what's supposed to capture all of that. And that's why the Merchant Shipping Act have it in there for the BMA, who are the experts in dealing with this shipping safety by way of dealing with all these international ships. Make sure, apply and enforce that in our country. But they don't want to do it.
See, Glenn, another thing. When you check the U.S., then you see they having their big holidays and picnics. you will see the patrol boats checking boats, Muhammad's life raft on the boats and life jackets, and that they are properly outfitted with everything that they have. And if they don't, they'll guide them back into shore.
Yeah, but they have their regulations, their domestic regulations, their CFRs, right? Which require that even your private vessel,
that's what I'm saying,
be equipped. But I'm not even, I even won't go that far right now. Right? Because, of course, that's part of it. But I won't deal with these commercial vessels operating around the Bahamas without having any certification.
Yeah.
You know, that's where we need to go with this.
It is sad, you know, and even with our mail boats, I don't think half of them are properly outfitted with the sufficient life jackets and everything for passengers that be on their boats.
No, they don't need to, because there are no regulations put in place. This local safety certificate scheme is not put in place to cause them to have to do it.
So why they don't do it, Glenn?
Because they don't care about what happened. You got to remember the BMA, they headquartered in London. And all the technical people, the high-end technical people that would have the ability to put this in place, they're all in London, and they don't care about what happened in the Bahamas. I can tell you, I used to work with them.
Yeah, I can imagine.
If they cared about what happened in the Bahamas, they would have had this in place a long time. Because I was pushing for it when I was there. And once I got out of there, really, I shouldn't have left, but I wanted to make more money. Once I got out of there, Dougie, ain't nobody else check. Well, I mean, if they was checking there, make it happen. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Right?
Another thing, Glenn, you know, what you were talking about, the port, you know, putting the thing in there. Let me tell you another thing, Glenn. I still don't believe that we give our tourists an authentic Bahamian experience. Let me give you an example. You look at the Houthis cut right there on the Western Esplanade.
Yes, the Tiki Yacht.
You know, years ago, I don't know, we used to go to regattas. You remember when they used to have sculling boat?
Yeah, man. I grew up in South Andrews. You know, we used to have the skull to go. Yeah.
They used to have sculling races, Kamalami boat races.
Yep.
Let me tell you something. You can imagine, you get a couple of them little skips out there, and you get the tourists in this boat and show them how to scull a boat, how to sail a Kamalami boat. That will do something for them.
Yeah, but I think that's something you could even do on the lake. And I think there was a gentleman that was doing rowing and stuff on the lake. See, the lake will never be rough.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes our shores on coming from because you remember we got ocean surrounding us, and then the banks on the southern side gets real shallow sometimes. But we could do things like this on the lake. And have attractions, people going and picking up, and just like how they do everything else, like Stuart Cove on the south end of the island, and they got plenty of people they be picking up to Gary diving and stuff, you know.
I know.
So yeah, these things
a lot of things that another thing, Glenn, right there in the Pompey Square. Let's say this. It might seem simple. Think about planning of the maypole right in the square.
But I thought they had.
That would be exciting to get them involved.
Yeah.
The toe and heel, the quadrille, that just to teach some authentic. When you go to other Caribbean countries, you see this.
Yeah, and we need to sell things like that, right? You know, you get thousands of tourists coming in every day. Yes, they want, once you can organize it properly. And let me tell you something. You and I run marathons, right, Dougie? Mm-hmm. You know that I've been on many cruises, and I only wish on some of those destinations they were doing 10Ks and stuff like that, so I could run.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people on these cruise ships who love running. And they run every day when they're home. And when they come to these ports, there's nothing to tell them somebody's organizing a marathon. They don't even mind doing it at midday in the middle of the hot sun because they're runners and they don't care.
No.
But we need to reach out and set up something that happens daily. Chunkanoo Rush Out should be daily downtown.
Yeah.
Right?
Even with our running club, somehow we got to come together and spearhead, because I'm not talking even the cruise ship. I'm talking about passengers who come to stay for 3, 4, 5, 6 days.
That's right, in the hotels.
You go out there and set up and say, hey, you know, we have a running club here, and we'll be going out for a run. And, you know, I think things like that will work.
And it makes the destination that much better for people.
Yes.
You know?
It would. So I don't know. I just hope we can get our act together, and especially now when you look at Exuma, it's booming now. Things like that should be happening in Exuma.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And Dougie, you heard, I don't know if you heard recently, right? They were talking about this ship, this cruise ship, the Utopia, the Sea, is coming here twice a week.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was a joke, but somebody, I think it was the minister, say, man, we want you to do 3 stops when you come to do your short cruise. And my mind went straight to Morgan's Bluff.
Okay, yes.
Because if we develop Morgan's Bluff into a port that the government will now own 2 ports, and any ship could use that. And you can imagine 2 cruise ships a day go into Morgan's Bluff. How much people go back home to North Andres?
Man, and you got Andres have some authentic fights and everything, and so I think we the government, the private sector, everybody need to come together and put their heads together and see how we can make this a more attractive. Like you said, sometimes they've been here before, and when they get back here, they're not coming off no more because they done been every place.
And me and you do the same thing when we go on cruise, eh? If we've been somewhere before and we don't be interested in coming off the ship, we come off the ship. If something happened right there now, but just go get some drinks. Boy, but if they could have a big Olympic-sized pool and a nice cabana and all that, and I could come off the ship, and I would get off that ship and do that for the day.
Yes, you would. You
know,
would.
So all these are additional things that can cause people to want to come ashore.
I tell you,
want to get off that ship.
And guess what? When they're going back on the ship, they say, Captain, back, I need to go back to experience the Lord.
Exactly. They can't wait to come back the next time.
You know?
And while we're the most busiest visiting port in the world, we would also be one of the more attractive, because very few. I've been in a port in Turkey, Istanbul. And when the cruise ship went to that port, they had like at least about 12 restaurants ashore, nice high-end steakhouses and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't get a reservation in one of them, and that ship was only there at night.
Wow.
And they got all the marks, and they got like a whole big shopping mall, and this is the area that's already protected, and the regular people who don't have a cruise ship ticket can't even get in this area, And because it's so nicely set up and they offer so much, the whole cruise ship is coming ashore and take care of that.
And when I just came off a cruise the other day, I stopped in Cayman, Mexico, and Jamaica. But in Mexico, you saw I talking about the authentic experience of Mexico. The dancers and the things that they were doing. It was no foreign object whatsoever. No. Everything you heard, their music and everything, and I think that's where we go wrong too, because some of the people come up, they hear, they hear no native music, nothing.
Well, we don't even respect our own culture.
You're right.
If we don't respect it, how we expect them to want to be a part of it or respect it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we have a minister of sports and culture, and that culture part need to do more, man. I need to feel that, you need to see that as you move around, not only with the tourists, but with the locals. Do they go into the primary schools and make sure children still know how to do London Bridge and play what we used to call roundings and these were fun things. Jack Stones, yeah.
But these little children today, they don't know what hopscotch and rounders and things is anyhow.
Yeah, but nobody teaching them, and then this should be done from the school level by the ministry, responsible for culture.
Yes.
This don't have to be no big deal, but by the time they get certain age, they should know certain things about our constitution. They should know how to play certain games. They should, like you said, the quadrille and all that. They learn how to do them things from primary school, and they'll never go nowhere.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, but Dougie, I appreciate your call, my brother. Thank you so much, and thank you for listening to Maritime Matters. And I will move on, and always good to hear from you.
Okay, good.
All right, buddy. Yeah, man, that's my good running partner, Mr. Douglas Dougie, my boy. We did marathons all over the world, and still got more to do, Dougie? That's right. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. on this show, we talk maritime. We're about to move to our first break. Boy, that was a long one, but boy, we got plenty to say. We got some more coming up with the carrier Eisenhower and Roosevelt, because I don't know if we can say nothing else but the Houthis tonight, but who knows? Somebody might want to hear, but then you all feel free to call. The number to call is 326-8255. I'm in studio all by myself, you can imagine. So a call wouldn't hurt. And if you have any feelings on this water park for Nassau Cruise Port, if you have any feelings on the 4 missing or feared dead men from that ship that sank off Morgan's Bluff, if you have any feeling on what the Houthis are doing down there, causing all that disruption in the Red Sea and the Suez Canal and causing ships to go all the way around Africa, you have any feelings on the fact that the carriers are icing out, just please feel free to call, or any other maritime topic, and let's have a quick one on that. So we move to our first break. Thank you so much for listening to Maritime Matters. We'll be back.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Off the CD player, to the console, in the transmitter, out of the tower, through your speakers, to your ears. Nothing but hits. Love 97.
Sitting in the morning sun.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Welcome back to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Now we got a caller. We're going to get back into our show. Let's just hear what our caller have to say. Caller, you on Maritime Matters. Thank you so much for calling.
Hi, Captain. Hi, Auntie May.
Hey, my lady. What's happening, girl? What you saying?
Hey, Cap, what is a catamaran boat? I saw in the news with this thing, with this catamaran. What is the advantage of a catamaran boat, the structure?
Well, they can't sink. You see, catamaran, you know what a boat look like with just the hull.
Yes.
The catamaran have 2 hulls on the outside.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember the catboat used to come here many years ago.
Uh-huh.
That was a big catamaran, but it was a very high-speed one.
Okay.
The Bohingi had a catamaran, the first one, but it had 2 pontoons and 2 engines. So the pontoons or the piece that sits in the water, instead of having just one, it have 2 of them, and it's bridged to the top by the superstructure. So the catamaran, they because of how they sit on the water, it's very difficult for them to ever sink.
Oh, okay, because I saw in the news where this catamaran with a Jamaican, Haitian, and whatnot, they had a cache of guns, you know?
Oh, yeah, well, the catamaran is a regular boat that can tow anything, except that the stability of those catamarans, they don't, the G-force, they like, while a regular boat, if it's in choppy waters and it go to the side, it can take in water and sink. The catamaran ain't gonna never go to the side to begin with to that extent, because the 2 pontoons are going to keep it kind of on top of the water.
Oh, okay. I was wondering about the structure.
Yeah, that's what that means. But they could carry whatever any other boat could carry.
Okay. All right.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much for calling. And Auntie May told me to tell you hello. She was here. She said, what happened to my friend? I see my friend for a little while. But Auntie May wanted me to say hello to you. So I told her, whenever I talk to you again, and this is the time we're talking again, I'm going to tell you, Auntie May says, hello. She likes us to know she got somebody who thinks about her. And you know, you're always talking about Auntie May. So, ladies and gentlemen, our topics of discussion has been the sinking or the capsized vessels off Morgan's Bluff. The fact that the search have been called off for the 4 missing men or the 4 persons that were unaccounted for. And the fact that we received no information in the press that the Bahamas Maritime Authority is doing any casualty investigation into that matter. And they might be, I don't know, but nobody's saying nothing. And we also want to look into the fact that if there was a local safety certificate system in place, perhaps we would not even be talking about this. And the thing is, whenever another one sink, I can talk about it because I know that the local safety certificate is there to try and curtail things like this from happening. So without it being in place, you have no system to curtail it. So chances of it happening is that much more. And we fear more lives will be lost. Don't want it to happen. So we need to keep pressure on them to try put that system in place the way it's required to be in place. Eh? We had some opposition for the water park being installed within the port of the new port, Nassau Cruise Port. And the opposition was like, hey, they didn't have enough. They need everything in there. Let's put some things there. Who is stopping us from putting a 50-meter pool outside the port in the downtown area? You know, I don't think the cruise ships are going to stop us from doing that. They can't stop us. So, because the new port wants to put that there for the cruise ship people to have fun inside there, that don't stop nobody from putting 5 of them on the outside. So let's put 5 more on the outside and make this a big 50-meter pool stop. I don't see nothing wrong with that. So that opposition also sheds light on the fact that we don't have enough anchor featured attractions in the port of Nassau. People come in because this is the best stop based on where they're coming from and the arrangement they have with the ship, with the shipping world. Eh? They gotta leave that home port and they gotta be back within a week or 10 days or whatever the case may be. So just to pass the Bahamas will be a problem. Now most of them got their private islands. We got private islands all over the place. Excuse me. We got Disney with 1.5. Someone opened the Lighthouse Point. But they got Castaway Key from that time been open for just Disney ships. We got Half Moon Key for Carnival and all their ships. So is Princess Key on the south side of Lucha. They are near where Lighthouse Point is going to be. And so Carnival got 2 spots. They could juggle their ships that they own and only their ships use. We got Norwegian Cruise Line that owns Great Stirrup Key, right next to Coco Key. And they have very good amenities, a lovely key. And they hire a lot of people from Great Harbor Key, I know. But only NCL ships go there. They don't accommodate no other cruise ships. We got MSC that have Ocean Key now. And only MSC ships can go into Ocean Key, their private key to do business. They ain't entertaining no other cruise ship lines. We have, what else we have? We have all kind of operations going on in this country, right? Now, the Bimini Resort World, decided to capitalize. I think they signed a contract with the Virgin ships. You know, the Virgin, the 2 Virgin ships, and I think they had a 3rd one built So they get a contract to utilize a space on the beach, very nice, very lovely, at Resort World Bimini. But when their ships are not using the dock space, that resort can take on any ship. They have Carnival ships go there. I don't know if RCCL goes there yet. I think MSC may come there every now and then. So that Nassau Harbor and Freeport Harbor are the only three where almost any ship can book. All the rest are owned by those shipping lines, and they don't take nobody else but their shipping line. And they have far more than those three. They have like 6 or 7, like twice as much. But the Bahamas government only owns one of those three. So we need to open up some more ports in this country, yeah? We need to get Morgan's Bluff up and going. That ain't gonna take much. But what is that going to do? That will cause hundreds, if not thousands, of South Androsians to go back home because they'll have plenty wake out of that. That will have a lot of Nassauvians go to live there because this is what they do. Because now you still have all the jet skis, all the taxi tours. You see that sponging operation out there in Red Base? Man, they'll have tours galore up in there. They have caves. They have wonderful, beautiful beaches. They have all kinds of things. And more things can be developed as a result of those thousands of people calling there on a daily basis. Excuse me. So that's where we are in dealing with these cruise ship facilitations. We can't rely on Nassau Harbor only, because, the government don't even regulate that no more. But we could regulate or replicate what we do in Nassau at Morgan's Bluff. We could replicate what we do in Nassau at Exuma. Well, maybe not the Stocking Island, but we could go at Roker's Point or someplace in that area and dredge and cause the ship to be able to go straight to the land and replicate what's going on in Nassau, right? We see them doing it. What do you think Lighthouse Point did? They found a spot on the ocean where it touches the land, and they put a dog there. What you think Perfect Day at Coco Key did? They found a spot on the land, push it out into the ocean, and the ships, any one of their ships can now come straight to that dock. We could do the same thing with parts of Andros, like Morgan's Bluff. I ain't go as far as saying Fresh Creek. But Morgan's Bluff and Drakesville for sure, right? We could develop those areas to receive cruise ships straight out of the tongue of the ocean. We could develop certain, Eleuthera got enough, I guess. Cat Island. Cat Island got the eastern side. Cat Island got Devil's Point to the southwest. That touches the ocean. Let's put a jetty out there where cruise ships can come and secure themselves to southwest Cat Island. Meaning, all of those Cat Islanders can now go back home and get a piece of that pie. Because if a cruise ship with 4,000 to 6,000 people are going to be coming there on a daily basis, only need 2 ships. You see what they did at those of you who cruises sometimes and you went to Grand Turk. You see what they did? Carnival, they put a little jetty from the beach going out into the sea near the ocean, and they could hold 2 ships at a time. And that's well away from the city. So there's nothing wrong with being away from the city, People will find a way to accommodate that. Once that cruise ship can secure itself, we don't want them dropping no anchor and stuff. Secure itself to a jetty that we put abutting from our land into the deep water. Happening all over the world. In Agua. Easy to put it right there in the area of that lighthouse. Deep waters already there. Just got to build a jetty. Cruise ships will be more than happy to make it a stop. Just to go from Florida to Dominican Republic and don't stop, man, they'll be more than happy to stop in Inagua for the day. I ain't want to mention Ragged Island, eh? Ragged Island kind of tiny. And it'll probably be a little more difficult to do because you can't really get to the western side of Ragged Island. It's too much banks. Cruise ship them can't get there. So if you put it, you have to put it on the eastern side where all the wind always coming from, which shouldn't be a problem. But I'm just saying that ain't much people on Ragged Island already. And I know if they want to hold thousands of people coming there on a daily basis to say route there, they want tranquility. But anyway, you could look at that. You could look at putting one right there to the south of Auckland, right there to Landrail Point, Crooked Island, right there to Betsy Bay, Mayagua. Come on, man. There are so many places you could put a jetty that goes out toward the ocean for cruise ship to come and tie up in this country that it have to astound you and me, dear listener, that this country has not saw it fit to have jetties where cruise ship could tie up on every single island. And I say that because if you go to the Eastern Caribbean and you start from Montserrat at the north and then way up there, going down to Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, you go down to Barbados, Trinidad, and I jump cross couple because I know all of my head. If I'm looking at the map, I'll tell you where. But these places, just about every single country has a cruise ship dock. Now, their countries are not as big as our islands. Very few of them could compare with the size of Long Island, or Cat Island, or Crooked Island, because we're bigger than them. But we call them our islands, or family islands. We don't know. Well, we know, but we don't explore the ability to make each one of them like one of those smaller countries in the Eastern Caribbean so that they can have cruise ship come in and run their own show. Maybe we don't even want that to happen as a government, because they ain't be dependent on us no more. But that will be the right thing to do. We hold ourselves back too often in this country. What I mean by hold ourselves back, we don't use the intuition to make things happen because of our position and because we got all of those cruise ships. You know how much it costs? One of those cruise ships, sometimes one of them costs $2 to $3 billion to build. And they got their own scheme of getting people to come and home port and get on those ships. And when they come out, they're looking for places, nice places to go to. If you get the Bahamas with a whole heap of new destinations ready for cruise ships to just come. And this thing, it costs the government a big bunch of money compared to what we're going to reap in return. You call that a no-brainer, man. You got to wonder if we got people in government who really care for this country to progress. Because this ain't nothing new. This is going on from the time they started to got Balfour Beatty to expand Prince George Wharf. We know cruise ships is up on the rise. From the kind of, we used to have 13 and 14 cruise ships in the port of Nassau shortly after Balfour Beatty finished with the first expansion. And you know why we used to have so many cruise ships? Because that's how small they were. But now where we could have 3 cruise ships on one dock, I can only hold 1 cruise ship. Where we had the inside piece, we done close that out. That ain't water no more, that's land. But because of the way things developed, we, as a country, fail to keep up with the developments of the cruise ship industry. While the Eastern Caribbean, each one of those countries was able to get a dock, and some of them even wanted to do home porting. But they didn't realize how expensive it could be for the ship to do home porting, to get people to come and join the ship and get off on the ship. And then it was a good idea, right? But it wasn't practical. Because I've been in seminars and stuff where they were saying that they want to do a cruise home port and this and that. But they didn't understand cruise home porting. Even when we tried that here in Nassau during the pandemic, we had a ship, what's the name of those two ships? The ones that got arrested eventually. Again, a little old now, I can't remember. But those two ships were home porting in Nassau. That meant the people were flying into Nassau to join those ships. And we did a makeshift arrangement where we would do the security clearance and all these other clearance with the luggage to get them on board those ships. But we wasn't set up like a home porting facility. A home porting facility is somewhere where they got a warehouse almost the size of the ship. And all they're doing is taking new cleaning gear, they taking the linen, they taking the food supply, they taking everything out of that warehouse and just putting it on board the ship and taking all the dirty stuff off the ship and putting them ashore so they could start cleaning them up and all that. And they got an area where all the luggage got to go and sit and the dog come and sniff and this happen and that happen. Next thing you know, you meet your luggage in your cabin when you get on board the ship. They ain't that kind of operation here because number one, we don't have the space for it at Prince George Wharf. Number two, even if we had the space for it, things would be so expensive to have to now leave Florida or leave the U.S. and get here just to get on board that ship. That's an additional cost for freight, eh? Well, they ain't gonna pay no duty, but that's a big additional cost for freight for the volume of stuff that they would need to be coming on an ongoing basis to do that home porting. So, yes, we tried, and yes, we did it. But we were not really ready for that. And why weren't we ready? We weren't ready because we don't have enough ports in the Bahamas to accommodate that. That the government has ownership of. This ain't gonna let them come to their port talking about you do your own port and so you could come and visit our port. No, sir. Carnival ain't gonna do it. RCCL ain't gonna do it. MSC ain't gonna do it. So you ain't got enough ports even if you could have home port in Nassau to say you doing a Bahamian. But now we need to make that happen. We can only make it happen if we start the discussion of getting it off the ground and put some tangible things in place to find out how much it's going to cost, which islands we're going to use. And I got drawings I can give them right now. Well, of course, they drawings based on my experience. But they could navigate that and get that into a professional operation with real naval architects or real architects putting things in place, saying what could happen, what equipment, what material they can need. And then they can start trying to get funding. And we, the Bahamian people, can fund some of them. We, the Bahamian people, can fund most of them. Give us the opportunity to raise the funds to put Morgan's Bluff Port in place. And the returns will be going to us when the cruise ships use it. And we'll get a private company to manage it instead of trying to sell it to a company to lease it. No, we can get a company and manage that. We putting up the money. We got money. Boy, Bahamians got money. You all hear me. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am ranting, I'm raving, I'm running on. Boy, let me tell you something. A little tired. I don't know if y'all get it in my voice. But right now, we're in the middle of Maritime Matters. The show is an hour and a half, and we have like 2 minutes left. So, we're on air. We was in the middle. We're on air now. So, I'm just getting ready to wrap up. And if I can just recap that we did the sinking or the capsizing of that barge off Morgan's Bluff, or people still missing. I haven't seen any casualty investigation being launched to find out what happened to those lives and what condition that ship might have been in that caused it to sink. And the fact that we're going to put in place some local safety certificates so that this type of thing don't continue to happen, right? It'll be very difficult. And we'll have something to stand on as a country. So, we talk about the opposition to the Nassau Cruise Port Water Park. And my position is I think we need to do that water park and many more featured attractions. Like zip line, like a Nassau Flyer. They used to call it Singapore Flyer, or the London Eye, or Nassau Eye, whatever we want to call it. A harbor walk path that takes you to Porter's Key. And we want to clean up Porter's Key, because that's another topic. Let's clean up Porter's Key, people. We talk about the Houthis really creating havoc and causing ships to go all around. And we also talk about how the Israelis decided they're going to get those Houthis back. And they did some bombing in Yemen of late. Because now the Houthis claiming that they get drones, long-range drones, can actually reach Tel Aviv. We didn't talk about the USS Eisenhower and Roosevelt. But guess what? We probably will get a chance to talk about them next time. So, I want to say good night to my good old Auntie May. I want to say to you, my dear listener, thank you so much for continuing to listen to Maritime Matters. I want to say thank you to Douglas, my running partner, my marathon running partner, for calling in and letting us know his views and his position on some of these things. And as always, I say to you, dear listener, Maritime Matters. Tick, 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 tick.